welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to take a close look at the English A-Level Paper 4 Language Topics, and this is variant 4.1. Okay. All right, so the way that this paper is laid out, we have 2 questions that you must answer, and there are a total of 3 questions, so you would have to choose 2 of 3. And of course, as always, you are reminded of the need for good English and clear presentation in your answers. So let's begin. The first question that we have is a text that is a transcription of part of a conversation between 2 friends in their 20s, Alicia and Jessica. They are talking about how often they use their mobile phones. Discuss ways in which the speakers are using language here to communicate and how their language is affected by the context. You should refer to specific details from the transcription relating your observations to ideas from your wider study. Okay, so here, when you comment on how they use language and how the language is affected by the context, you can use details from the transcription itself, so from the text itself, or you can also use things that you know from more general studies, so your general knowledge, okay? So let's begin reading the transcript, and then I'll go ahead and I'll comment on what I've noticed about the language and how it's used. So the conversation alternates between Alicia and Jessica. So we begin with Alicia. I have to actually do something so that I might stop thinking about it and change the behavior of it because it is addictive. I want to know, how often do you check? Jessica laughs. Alicia goes on, your phone. You start walking to work, you look at your phone for Facebook, there's nothing going on. Check your emails, put it back in your pocket. Do you ever go, oh, and then just get it out and automatically just look at it again? Yeah, Jessica laughs. Back to Alicia. Yes, so you probably check it more than you even think so. So in terms of checking my phone, oh, so many times a day. In terms of actually unlocking it, going in, checking my emails, quite a few times a day. So between 3 and 5 on non-working days. I reckon you're far worse. I don't know what you're talking about. The thing is though, but actually checking Facebook, I'm a bit, some days a lot. Sorry, my reading is kind of off because there's so much interruption going on. It's kind of hard to read a conversation, but I'm trying. Let's move on. So yes, Facebook, I'm a bit, some days a lot. Yes, but when I say a lot, not your level. Laughing goes on again, like less than 10 times, but I think it's a stimulation thing as well. Like you're just sitting there and you feel like your brain needs stimulation. Yeah, only last night when I was thinking, oh, I should go. Facebook, I was like, what am I doing? Just scrolling, though nothing is happening. Yes, laughs. Why am I wasting my time doing that? It's so true. It's such a time waster. And maybe I am addicted and don't know it, just at a lower level than you are. Laughing because I can't stop myself. The interaction it feels nice, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, I hope that made sense. If what I just read did not make sense, maybe you want to take the time to actually print or just use your phone or your computer to look at the transcription yourself and read it before you come back to the video and hear this part that I'm about to dive into right now. So let's talk about the language and the communication and what is going on here, okay? So here we have two girls in their 20s, as we are told at the beginning, that are discussing how addictive and addicting their phone is, right? So we have Alicia who starts the conversation, and here it seems like the transcript that we have here is in the middle. So this is actually not the beginning. I think that we're here, we start reading in the middle of a conversation that they're having. We see here by these forward slashes, it means interruptions, that they interrupt each other a lot. There's a lot of overlapping, okay? So one person's talking, the other person cuts in, and then we see that they cut it in the middle, and then the other girl keeps talking after. So there's a lot of interruptions. You see a lot of these forward slashes here, okay? And what I said, first thing I pointed out is that there's a lot of speech overlap or interruptions because they're both, that it shows that they're both engaged in the conversation. They're both so eager and so into what's going on that they're talking over each other a little bit, okay? They want to get their opinion, their word in. Another thing that I have noticed here, this conversation, is that Jessica seems to repeat the same word and also use micropauses when she's thinking while speaking. And here I'll show you examples where I left a triangle. It happens a lot. Here I didn't put a triangle, I didn't underline here with a triangle, but you see, so in terms of checking my phone, she's thinking, micropause, oh, so many times a day, in terms, so again she repeats in terms of actually unlocking, going and checking my emails quite a few times a day. So you have the micropauses here. And also here, like less than 10 times. Okay, so less than, this is how she would sound. She's like less than, she's thinking. So if she wasn't to do this, maybe we would see she would have just stopped talking. So she just think and be silent, and then she would say after 5 seconds, maybe 10 times a day, okay, or less than 10 times. So she wouldn't be repeating herself here. So here it's a sign, her repeating the same thing is a sign that she's thinking while she's speaking. It happens again over here, I've underlined, and maybe I am addicted and don't know it. So there again, you can tell that she's thinking while she's speaking. So she's just buying time to get her point across. I think that I do that myself quite often. But yeah, so that's what I noticed about Jessica. And another thing that I've noticed is the laughing. There's a lot of laughing that goes on in this text, right? You have laughing here, laughing here, laughing here, okay? There's some more laughing over here. Again, just a lot of laughing. And what does laughing tell us about this conversation? It tells us that it's not really a serious conversation, right? And here at the beginning, you have the exaggeration, the hyperbole. Okay, it is addictive, so checking your phone all the time becomes really addicting. And from the fact that they use, addiction is not, typically addiction is not something that you would laugh about, right? So you can also you can also argue that there's a bit of irony with this conversation because they're talking about it, the serious topic, but in a very light way because they're laughing so much. Okay, but it is true that I think that everybody would kind of rather to be addicted to their phone than to like a heavy drug, or alcohol. I think that being addicted to your phone is maybe it's a little bad, but it's not as bad as if you're basically killing yourself with alcohol. Okay, so there's a bit of irony here. There's a lot of laughing. They're making light of the situation. Okay, so the laughing, it suggests that the girls aren't taking the matter seriously. It's funny. Oh yeah, how many times do you check your phone? And that's what they're doing, right? Oh, I reckon you're far worse. You're worse than me. Oh no, I'm not on your level. So they're going back and forth with who is more addicted to their phone. Okay? And I think that it wouldn't be funny if two people that were addicted to like serious drugs were like, "Oh no, you're more addicted to cocaine than I am," or this is, something really bad. So yes, the laughing also tells us that it's very light, and I think that it also has to do with their age. They're in their 20s, so they're pretty young, right? And young people tend to find pretty serious things kind of funny. They don't take things too seriously. You could argue that. Okay, and another thing that I've noticed is Jessica uses yeah to express agreement, while Alicia uses yes. Okay, so this is a very small detail, but you have it here. So from Jessica, yeah, Alicia, yes, and then Alicia again with the yes, Jessica with the yeah, Alicia again with yes, Jessica with yeah. Okay, and that's to express agreement, so it means the same thing. The word is used the same way, it's just different pronunciation. Okay, and if you want to go very deeper into things that may play into the region or where they live, maybe has something to do with why one would use yeah or yes. Okay, so you can kind of explore that in your commentary. So these are the major 4 things that really struck out to me when I was reading this text. And also I noticed the use of an idiom here. The thing is though. Okay, the thing is, that's an expression that is commonly used to further explain something, or to state an excuse. Okay, and here Alicia says the thing is though, but she didn't finish because Jessica cut her off. Okay, and I don't think that she goes back to that train of thought. Let's see, the thing is though, but actually checking Facebook, I'm a bit some days, a lot. Your level. Nope. Okay. No, I think that she doesn't. Oh, no, she does say, I think it's a stimulation. So maybe it actually has to do with the explanation that she goes into down here. The thing is though, I think it's a stimulation thing as well. Okay? Because she also interjects and she cuts off Jessica. Alright, so you could argue that she goes into explaining what she thinks checking the phone is. It's explanation. Right? And let's see if we can tell another thing. Yes. So another thing that I've noticed is the use of like. Okay, there are 2 girls in their 20s, and they use like quite often, which young people use. Like, and they say like a lot. It's a cultural thing, I guess, as well. I was like, and they use like a lot quite often. Okay. That is what I have. I'm taking a look again just quickly to see if I can spot anything else that we can talk about. So yes, the language to communicate. The tone is very, I would say that in this case, the tone is very light. They're very engaged in the conversation. And we talked about the forward slashes that you can mention, right? And how is the language affected by the context? It's a pretty, there's irony again, right? They're talking about being addicted to something, but in a very light, not serious way. So it's kind of, there's a paradox there. Okay? So that is what I have for question 1, the notes, okay? If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below, and we could further explore whatever question you have. And if you have additional comments or anything that you want to add on, feel free. It will not only help yourself, but also help others that would like to learn. Okay, let's take a look at question 2. English as a global language. The text below is from a 2016 article which was published on the BBC website. Discuss what you feel are the most important issues raised here relating to the changing use of English as a global language. You should refer to specific details from the text as well as to ideas and examples from your wider study. The title of the article: Native English speakers are the world's worst communicators. It might be their language, but the message is often lost. Okay, so the title already says a lot, and we just need to pay attention to the most important issues that are raised while we read, related to the use of English globally, and also specific details. Yes, we refer to specific details from the text and also ideas or examples from wider studies, so general knowledge. Okay, let's begin. It was just one word in one email, but it triggered huge financial losses for a multinational company. The message, written in English, was sent by a native speaker to a colleague for whom English was a second language. Unsure of the word, the recipient found 2 contradictory meanings in his dictionary. He acted on the wrong one. Months later, senior management investigated why the project had flopped, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. It all traced back to this one word, says Chia Swan Chong, a UK-based communication skills and intercultural trainer who didn't reveal the tricky word because it is highly industry specific and possibly identifiable. Things spiraled out of control because both parties were thinking the opposite. When such misunderstandings happen, it's usually the native speakers who are to blame. Ironically, they are worse at delivering their message than people who speak English as a second or third language, according to Chong. The non-native speakers, it turns out, speak more purposefully and carefully typical of someone speaking a second or third language. Anglophones, on the other hand, often talk too fast for others to follow and use jokes, slang, and references specific to their own culture, says Chong. In emails, they use baffling abbreviations such as OOO instead of simply saying they will be out of the office. The native English speaker is the only one who might not feel the need to accommodate or adapt to the others, she adds. Non-native speakers generally use more limited vocabulary and simpler expressions without flowery language or slang. Because of that, they understand one another at face value. One bugbear is abbreviations. The first time I worked in an international context, somebody said ETA 1653. And I thought, what on earth is ETA? Says Michael Blattner, head of training and proposition at Zurich Insurance Group. And then there's cultural style, Blattner says. When a Brit reacts to a proposal by saying, "That's interesting," a fellow Brit might recognize this as understatement for "that's rubbish." But other nationalities would take the word "interesting" at face value, he says. It's the native speaker who often risks missing out on closing a deal, warns Frenchman Jean-Paul Lenière, formerly a senior international marketing executive at IBM. Too many non-Anglophones, especially the Asians and the French, are too concerned about not losing face and nod approvingly while not getting the message at all, he says. Okay, so I find this text a little bit amusing. Now let's try to do this maybe paragraph by paragraph, right? And point out the issues that are raised in each paragraph. So here in paragraph 1, we see that there is an email that contained a single word in the email that triggered huge financial loss for a multinational company. And the message was written in English, sent by a native speaker to a colleague that English was their second language, okay? So you have a native English speaker that sends an email to someone who was not raised speaking English at home all the time, okay? And what happened is that the person who received the email, they didn't really understand what the word meant. So what they did is they went to look in the dictionary and they found that there was two meanings in the dictionary. There was one that was good and one that was bad. So one that was probably just, I guess, normal or maybe a compliment, but there was definitely the other one that was an insult. So he acted on the wrong one. So he went with the bad definition, okay? And then months later, there's a senior management member that investigated to see what happened. Like, why did this whole project, why did it flop? So why did it go bad? And here I underlined a huge issue, which is costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? Can you imagine losing, you have a company and one of your employees send an email that makes you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably, I don't know, American maybe dollars, because of one word, okay? And here, the word that was used is not revealed, okay? I'm not surprised. They wouldn't want to reveal it. And things spiraled out of control because both parties were thinking the opposite. So here, I think, for me, the important issue here, there's two, okay? So a lot of money was lost because of one word. So if you just used a simpler word, okay, the fact that whoever was receiving this word had to look into a dictionary to figure out what it means, okay? Sometimes I do know that when you're working somewhere, you want to impress people, but this was a huge mistake. You should just keep things simple, right? There's no need to go above and beyond and try to be super fancy in an email. I don't know, maybe some people work for companies and they like to do that, but for me, when I speak with people, I try to be as simple as possible, especially if I know that someone doesn't speak doesn't have English as their first language. Okay, try to be simple. And I think here, the fact that the person had to look into a dictionary is a problem, because it just means that the word was probably just very uncommon, right? Okay, and it ended up costing the company so much money, and both parties were thinking opposite things. Okay, so I think that here what could have been done is the native speaker should have made sure that not only if you want to use a word that's very complicated, at least maybe double check the meaning, just to make sure. Maybe the person only knew one definition and they didn't know that a different definition existed. All right, so definitely double check that your words are not going to be offending, especially if you're sending it to someone who has enough power to make you lose a whole lot of money, right? So that's very unfortunate. Like, I think this is a true story too, so that really sucks. All right, so that's my first thought. And if we want to use an example from wider study, is there's actually there's words that are common words that are used in English that may have a lot of meanings or hidden meanings based on culture, right? I guess we see that later on, so let's just keep moving on. Okay, and here, third paragraph, we're just being told that ironically, native speakers are the ones who are worse at delivering their message than people who speak English as a second or third language. Okay, so I should have actually underlined that because I find that interesting. You can comment on that as well. Oh, it's different green, but it's okay. So another important issue is that it seems that native speakers are the ones who are worse at delivering their message. And here you can maybe argue that the reason why they are worse is, there's that concept of when you have too much choice, it's actually worst for you to have many choice. Like, for example, if you have a closet and you just have 2 t-shirts, okay, you just have 2 t-shirts that you can choose to wear every day, you're either gonna wear one or the other. Okay, it's a pretty easy decision. But imagine you have a closet like the celebrities where you have 5,000 t-shirts. You might take a very long time to figure out what you're going to wear. Okay, so here you can use that analogy when you're describing this issue here, is that native speakers, sometimes their vocabulary is so rich, they know a lot of words. So sometimes choosing which word to use might make their message just more complicated than it could be right? And then it should be, rather. And then you have people like me who speak two languages, and I just get confused because my brain is just constantly mixing both languages together. Okay, but yeah, this is not about me, this is about the native English speakers. Next thing that I noticed that's an issue is non-native speakers. That's a good thing. They speak more purposefully and carefully. Okay, and Anglophones, on the other hand, often talk too fast for others to follow and use jokes, slang, and references specific to their own culture. Okay, so this is definitely a problem. I'm sure you've probably noticed this in so many places, especially maybe TV shows, or if you watch, for example, an American TV show, like if you watch, for example, The Simpsons or Family Guy, or any of those cartoons, American cartoons, or those popular TV shows too, like Friends or something like that, they always make reference to expressions or to other TV shows that are a part of the same culture. So if you're not really raised in that environment, in the culture, you don't even understand what's going on. You don't understand the jokes. Okay, so this is what they're pointing out in this sentence as far as using jokes, slang, and references from their own culture. Also, all those Star Wars references, or I'm not familiar with all of those, but I do know it happens a lot. And the talking too fast for others to follow, I think that's very important to mention, okay? Because when you are speaking to someone that's either learning your language or that is not very familiar with your language, a key to making sure that you're being understood properly is to speak slowly, okay? So yes, also let me know if you ever feel like I speak too fast. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will slow down for you, okay? So that's another issue that you have here. The abbreviations, okay? These are examples of using references. We have the abbreviation. So OOO means out of the office, but you wouldn't know unless you've worked in an environment where they use this. Okay, so abbreviations like that cause issues. You also have, yes, the fact that the English speaker is the only one who might not feel the need to accommodate. So this is pretty bad, right? Because if you are very comfortable, so if there's two people, right? There's two people and there's one that's super comfortable with English and there's another one who's not, then it's really up to the one who's very comfortable to accommodate the one who's not, and to make sure that they take extra care of how they transmit their message. Okay, moving on. Non-native speakers use more limited vocabulary. So this is again relating to that example with the t-shirts that I gave you. You have less words, so your vocabulary is limited, and you use simpler expressions and not all the fancy flowery language. Okay, so they understand, non-native speakers understand one another at face value. And face value, it means that whatever I say, I mean. So there's no hidden message. There's no you have to judge what I mean by the sound of my voice or my tone. It's just what I say is what I mean, which makes things easier. Okay? So again, they mention abbreviations, so ETA. And ETA actually means estimated time of arrival. Okay, so estimated time of arrival is ETA, if you didn't know. Moving on. And here we have another example that relates to taking things, understanding things, face value. Is here when someone says they're responding to a proposal, saying that's interesting. Another person who's in English, who's a Brit, will know that it means, oh, that's interesting. It means pretty much that's rubbish, so that's no good, okay? But there are other people from around the world who would say, oh, interesting. They said it's interesting, so they like it, right? If a Brit says interesting, they'll think that they take it face value. So interesting means interesting. It means I'm interested, okay? Which is not the case. So there again, it's pretty ambiguous and you get lost. So native speakers have to be careful with that. Okay, and then here, final paragraph. I think this is a very important point. And in the end, this point here relates to the first one that I underlined, which is losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it is that too many non-Anglophones, especially the Asians and the French, are too concerned about not losing face. Sorry, by the way, I feel like for an article that is talking about English and using simple language, I think that they use a lot of expressions and not abbreviations, but they use a lot of expressions in this article. For example, a bugbear. Nobody really says bugbear. What is bugbear? If you're not a native speaker, you probably wouldn't understand this. And then here they say losing face. So I think that it's pretty ironic. The article is criticizing native speakers who use complicated language when trying to express something, but whoever wrote this is kind of doing the same. But anyway, so back to this point here. Asians and French, well, especially Asians and French people, are too concerned about losing face. So it means that they're too concerned about looking, not competent, and they're too afraid to let people know that they don't understand. So when they don't understand, they just nod and pretend that they do understand, or when in reality they don't understand at all. So I find that funny because here Jean-Paul Nenière is saying that the native speaker is the one that loses in the situation, because if they don't understand and they nod, the native speaker will think that they understand, but the reality is that they do not. So they would probably not do business with you because they have no idea what you just said. So you're losing a deal, and hence you're losing money. Okay? So these are the important things, the important points that I've noticed in this text. All right. If you have any questions, again, leave a comment down below and we can take a look at that together. And additional comments or anything that you want to add on for the solution for this, you are more than welcome to do so. Okay. Moving on to 3. Language acquisition by children and teenagers. The following text is a transcription of part of a conversation between Jenny, age 4, 10 months, and Philip, aged 5 years. They are telling each other jokes and making up new jokes. Discuss ways in which Jenny and Philip are using language here. You should refer to specific details from the transcription, relating your observations to ideas from your studies of language acquisition. Okay? Language acquisition being the perception and the understanding of language. All right, so while I read this text, while I attempt to read the transcription properly, remember that Jenny is essentially 4 years old, so almost 5 years old, and Philip is 5 years old. Okay, let's begin. Jenny, why did Daddy jump over the road? Philip, because he was on a bicycle. Jenny, because he fought, the cars were gonna run him over. Oh, it's still my turn. What did the banana say to the young banana? You're too little to your peel. Why couldn't the chicken cross the road? Because he fought, the traffic lights fell over. Oh, I'll let you out of that one. It was right. It was the right answer. How did you know it was the right answer? Because I know that joke. That's right. Okay. Pause. Well, it was really a different one. I didn't mean it really. It was the wrong one. But you said, why did the chicken cross the road? Because it was too scared. No, because it was brave. It's my go now, again. Yes. This one's easy peasy. Why couldn't the chicken cross the road? Because it was too frightened. Did you hear it? Easy peasy one. Yes, you can do one. Why did the little girl go outside? Because she forgot to ask her mom. Yeah, that's the right answer. I didn't know it when I thought of that. Now it's your turn. Why did the boy go outside? Because he forgot, because he asked his mom. Because he just ran out. But you said, why didn't the little boy go out? Well, it was because he ran out. Oh. Oh, what a painful conversation. Okay. So, what are my thoughts about this conversation, the language, and how the language is used here, okay? So here, first and foremost, it's very clear that it's two young people, children, that are having a conversation, because language is used prematurely. Okay, you can use it's premature. It's a very simplistic, very simple, and how could I put it? What's another word that could describe the language here? Another word would be that it is very juvenile, maybe. Yes, juvenile. It's children speaking. There's no structure. There's no really follow up from when they're talking. You can see that one person says one thing and then the other person just goes on with it's very choppy. It's not a smooth conversation. There's no logical progression. Okay, you can just picture two kids just standing there very awkwardly, and the conversation, I would say, based on how when you read it and the flow of the text, since it's very choppy, you can tell that they're very focused on what they are each saying individually rather than really being in the conversation together, right? If you compare it to the first question, right? If you read the first transcript again with the two girls, and it was very flowy that they were even cutting each other off, right? So you can argue that. And here there's things that prove it concretely, okay? You see, for example, for Philip, thinking pause, and he uses filler words, okay? Because he is still learning how to express himself properly. So when he's confused and he doesn't know what to say, he says or malad. We see it later on again. We see also here, and he also takes a lot of pauses, right? So here he doesn't speak for 3 seconds, and the pauses are usually at the beginning for Philip. Okay, he listens to what Jenny has to say, and then he stops speaking for a few seconds, and then he says what he has to say. So that's pretty much Philip's strategy. You can see that he's thinking about what to say next, right? So that's how he uses the language. And his way of using these thinking pauses and the filler words show that he is older, because he's 5 years old and Jenny's 4. So he's actually, I think that it shows just slightly a little more maturity, because he thinks before he speaks. Okay, but here you have Jenny, who she stutters and she takes many micropauses because she doesn't think before she speaks, she thinks while she's speaking. Okay, so because he thought the cars were gonna run him over. Jenny also uses filler words, so arm, and he fought, so she stutters a little bit when she's thinking. All right, let's see. Philip does it a little bit as well, okay? But he does it less. Oops, just hit the camera. He does it less. He does it less than Jenny, okay? So he's more dominant on thinking before he speaks than Jenny is, which may be normal because he is slightly older. What, just I think 2 months older? Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, but not much older than Jenny. Okay, another thing, I noticed that they both have pronunciation issues. So Jenny says he fought, which shows that they're young, right? Fought instead of thought. And here for Philip, he runned out, so it's not really pronunciation for Philip. For Philip, it's a grammar mistake, okay? So it's the struggle with irregular verbs. instead of this should have been he ran, because he ran out. So this is common for children that are around that age, actually. A lot of younger children, they struggle with the tense and the irregular verbs. Okay, so we have that proves, so that is commenting on, yes, the use of language and the language acquisition. So they're still at the early stages of understanding how to use language when having conversations. Okay, we also have an idiom. I hope I'm pronouncing this well, or an idiom, not too sure, okay? But a very common expression, easy peasy, okay? Children use that. They probably learned that at daycare. So here, Philip says, this one's easy peasy. Why couldn't the chicken cross the road? Because it was too frightened. And then Philip says, did you hear it? Easy peasy one. So here I think there's kind of a condescending tone here. So you can see that Philip is the one who dominates the conversation. And when you take a look, it's usually Philip is telling the jokes more than Jenny seems to be. So he definitely has the upper hand. So I think here it's a little bit condescending, and by Philip saying that, it's definitely letting us, the readers, know that Philip is aware that he is older than Jenny. Okay, very aware. So he says, did you hear it? Easy peasy one. And then she says, yes. And he just moves on. Okay, you can do one. All right. And the condescending tone comes back again right after, when Jenny here she says her joke, right? Why did the girl go outside? And then Philip says, because she forgot to ask her mom. She goes, yeah, that's the right answer. And then Philip there, with a little bit of rudeness, says, well, I didn't know it when I thought of that. Okay, so here you have Philip, who he's kind of saying, oh yeah, I got the right answer, and unlike you, I didn't actually know the answer before I said it. Which brings us back to here. It's a little bit of a flashback here when Jenny says, oh, because I know that joke, right? Philip had said a joke, and Jenny said, oh, I knew the joke, that's why I got it right. So I definitely find that a little bit condescending. Another thing that I've noticed is, it seems, because here we had established that Philip, his style is to think before he speaks, right? But for some reason, there are areas where he stutters, okay? And I believe that for him, the stuttering is the lack of confidence. It shows a little bit of lack of confidence. And you see it here when he's being a little bit rude. He's like, when I thought of that, okay? Maybe I'm pushing it with this idea, but it makes me think of, when you're angry at someone, or when you're trying to be mean to someone, it's kind of going against your own nature. It's when you're in a confrontation, you realize that you're stuttering a little bit. Even if you're someone that usually expresses yourself very well, if you're put in a situation where you're angry and you're confronting someone, it makes you uncomfortable deep down inside, because it goes against the peace of within that humans like to have, that like zen and peacefulness. When you're angry, you're everything but peaceful. So you might find yourself stuttering. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening here, but I would probably try to argue that. And here again, why did Why did the boy go outside? Because he forgot to ask his mom. And Philip says, oh, because he just ran out. So here I think probably the insecurity has to do with the mistake that he made here. He's about to the irregular verb, so he's not confident with how that sounds maybe, so that's why he stuttered, because he just ran out. Okay, last thing that I would like to mention is the language here, also the way that they use mum here. So we saw mum from Philip and the spelling of mum for Jenny. Okay, so the way that they pronounce mum probably tells us that they're somewhere in a country that has that Britain way of saying mum, because in North America, right, if you're Canada or United States, mom is actually pronounced mom, not mum. Okay, so this also kind of gives a little hint as to where they may be located in the world. Okay, and that is what I have for question 3. Just taking a look again to see if I missed anything, but I don't think that I did. All right. And of course, if you have any questions about this question specifically, leave a comment down below and I'll take a look at that for you. And if you want to add on anything as well to the answer, of course, I encourage you to do so I can learn from you and others can learn from you as well. If you have anything additional to add. Okay, so with that being said, we have reached the end of this paper. So that was the little brainstorming tips and tricks, whatever you would like to call it, for our A-level English language paper 4, language topics, variant 4.1. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Appreciate it as always. Don't forget to thumbs up if you find this useful, and to also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. And I will see you in our next video.